Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what is arguably the ultimate historical cold case, the final days of Cleopatra the Seventh. We all kind of think we know the story, right? The tragedy, the epic romance, the snake. But when you actually look at the modern scientific and archaeological evidence, well, pretty much everything we thought we knew changes completely. Just think about this quote for a second. More than 2,000 years after her death, Cleopatra remains one of the most fascinating women in history. I mean, the sheer weight of that statement is incredible. We are still making massive cinematic productions, endless documentaries, and writing countless books about her right now. She wasn't just a ruler, she was this extraordinarily intelligent strategist who spoke multiple languages and ran an absolute economic powerhouse. Her life was definitely epic, but her death, that's what really cemented her as an absolute icon. But here is the million-dollar question for today's explainer. How did she actually die? For centuries, the whole narrative around her final hours has been wildly romanticized. So today, we're going to strip away all that Hollywood drama and look at what modern science actually tells us about the final moments of Egypt's last queen. To really understand her death, we have to grasp the intense political chaos of her final days. So, Section 1, the fall of a queen, the collapse of power. It's honestly shocking how rapidly the whole thing fell apart. I mean, for years, Cleopatra and her Roman ally, Mark Antony, were locked in this massive, high-stakes war against Octavian, the guy who'd later become the first Roman emperor. The first major domino falls just weeks prior to her death, with their absolutely devastating naval defeat at the Battle of Actium. And this wasn't just a tough loss. This was a catastrophic end to a geopolitical power struggle. Their military might basically vanished overnight. Then, just days before her own end, comes the tragic death of Antony. That leaves Cleopatra utterly cornered in Alexandria. So those last decisions she makes in her final hours, they aren't born out of sheer panic. They're driven by cold, calculated necessity. Octavian's forces are literally closing in, and she knows exactly what awaits her if she's taken alive. So, cornered and totally out of options, how does she make her exit? Let's move to Section 2, the famous aspite theory. Myth or reality? If you've ever seen a painting or watched a movie about Cleopatra, you definitely know the popular historical claim. The story goes that she smuggled an asp, a venomous Egyptian snake, into her heavily guarded chambers, maybe hidden in a basket of figs, and just let it bite her. It's super dramatic, it's exotic, and it just perfectly fits this narrative of a mysterious Eastern queen who was deeply connected to the ancient gods of Egypt. But we really have to stop and ask ourselves, was this actually a theatrical end, or is it just Roman propaganda? We have to remember exactly who was writing the history books here. The texts that survived, they come from the Romans, specifically Octavian's camp. Now, Octavian needed to go back to Rome looking like this brilliant, honorable conqueror, right? Not some ruthless bully who backed a brilliant queen into taking her own life. So a highly dramatic story about her dying by the bite of an exotic snake, that serves his political propaganda perfectly. It makes her seem alien, dangerous, and totally theatrical. Let's step out of the ancient Roman spin room for a second and look at the actual science. Section 3. The case for lethal poison. A calculated end. This is where the myth violently clashes with reality. Relying on a snake is highly unpredictable. It's incredibly dramatic, and frankly, it was historically super convenient for Rome. On the flip side, modern toxicologists increasingly lean toward a much darker, but scientifically sound reality. A lethal toxin. Using poison is calculated, it's precise, and it falls completely within Cleopatra's well-documented realm of expertise. Let's break down exactly why modern experts heavily favor poison. First off, an Egyptian cobra bite absolutely does not guarantee a quick or serene death, not at all. Forensics and herpetology tell us that a bite from one of these snakes is excruciatingly painful, it's extremely slow, and honestly, snakes frequently deliver dry bites where no venom is even injected. Second, Cleopatra was a brilliant scholar. She had a deeply documented knowledge of chemistry, botany, and pharmacology. She was practically an ancient toxicologist. She absolutely wouldn't leave her death to the unpredictable mood of a wild animal. Finally, with Octavian's guards literally outside her door, she needed a 100% reliable exit strategy. Toxicologists today believe she most likely used a sophisticated lethal cocktail, maybe a mix of hemlock, wolfsbane, and opium, which was specifically designed to induce a painless, guaranteed, and highly rapid death. Now, this whole debate over venom versus poison is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how we study her today. Section 4. Modern archaeological debates, investigating the evidence. For centuries, the world pretty much blindly accepted the Roman propaganda. The idea of a chaotic, emotional woman bested by Rome, choosing a dramatic snakebite to end it all. But modern scientific consensus completely rewrites that outdated narrative. Today, scholars use forensics, toxicology, and historical psychology to reveal a highly pragmatic leader who executed a carefully planned suicide. She used a sophisticated toxic cocktail to ensure she died entirely on her own terms. And by doing so, she brilliantly denied Octavian his ultimate prize of parading her through the streets of Rome. So how exactly do historians untangle a 2,000-year-old cold case? Well, first, they aggressively filter the surviving ancient texts, reading between the lines to strip away Octavian's political bias. Next, they apply modern medical science, using today's advanced knowledge of toxicology to practically disprove the snakebite theory based on the timeline of her death. But the ultimate prize, that final step, is finding the missing tomb of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. It's one of the most fiercely debated topics in modern archaeology. Right now, teams are aggressively scouring sites like Toposiris Magna. Finding those physical remains is literally the archaeological white whale. Getting access to her bones or hair could allow for isotopic and toxicological analysis, which would finally put this poison debate to rest forever. But even without her physical remains, the ripples of those final decisions are still felt today. Section 5. A legacy that changed history. Beyond the mystery. The sheer magnitude of her death just cannot be overstated. It sent massive shockwaves in 3 very distinct directions. Egypt instantly lost its independence. Rome was forever transformed both politically and economically. And her own personal status, it was elevated to an eternal modern icon. Her death wasn't just the end of a single monarch, it was the literal pivot point of the entire ancient world. With Cleopatra gone, the incredible Ptolemaic dynasty came to a devastating end, and Egypt, which was a massive powerhouse of the ancient world, was completely absorbed into Rome. Octavian immediately took Egypt's vast wealth, used it to crush the remnants of the Roman Republic, and formally crowned himself Emperor Augustus, completely ushering in the era of the Roman Empire. Yet by denying Rome the satisfaction of capturing her alive, Cleopatra achieved a very different kind of victory. From Shakespeare plays to massive modern blockbusters, her calculated, mysterious exit ensured she achieved absolute immortality. Which leaves us with a lingering question. How has one ancient mystery kept a name alive for 2 millennia? Was it the sheer brilliance of her life, or the carefully crafted enigma of her death? We might never know exactly what was in the cup she drank from, or exactly where her tomb lies hidden beneath the Egyptian sands. But what we do know for sure is that Cleopatra successfully engineered her own legacy. She remains the ultimate historical cold case, not because we lack the clues, but because she was always one step ahead of the historians trying to capture her. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the history you've been taught, and I'll see you next time.